you want to grab a hold to it with your cable. Don't use no string, man. Don't try to get out here with no shoestring or nothing other than junk like that. There we go. Get it in there good. And then come across and make your draw. And then you got your mark. This is what they love. This is why they do it. This is what everybody wants. You want to kill the biggest deer, but I cannot say this enough, and Buckmasters may get mad at me for saying this. Come on, get you some of it. What's up, guys? So this week's podcast is just going to be me. I've had a few people ask me recently, hey man, why don't you do a podcast on scoring deer? Why don't you do a podcast on scoring deer? I've been a certified Buckmaster scorer since 2012. And I'll be honest with you, that's one of the reasons I do this kind of stuff is because I got into that, got to meeting people, started writing for Rack Magazine, Buckmasters, Louisiana Sportsman, Mississippi Sportsman, and so forth and so on. And through that's where I started hearing these stories about these big deer. So first off, this is going to be the truth about scoring deer. And there's going to be some people probably not agree with the things I say. There's going to be some people who probably going to throw a little shade on some stuff that I say, and that's fine. This is America. You can have the opinion you want to. Doesn't necessarily mean it's right. One thing we're going to talk about is, we're going to talk about why we do it, how we do it, and the different systems real quick. So the first thing, why do we do it? Back in the day, they did it because they wanted to. They said, and I don't know who they are. I would think maybe biologists. I'm not sure. 49. And what they would do is they would measure the rack for symmetry and for the total antlers to see how healthy the deer herd was. Is that a good indicator? My opinion is not. My opinion is, and I'm not a biologist, but my opinion, a healthy deer herd shows from your does what they're doing. Are they throwing? How many fawns are they throwing? How big are the does? How big are the fawns? That kind of stuff. You got a doe out there throwing trips. That's a pretty good indicator. You got a healthy deer herd. You got a good carrying capacity. However, if you've got one that's throwing one, maybe not so much. You probably need to thin something out. I lean more toward the does. Nowadays, I feel like we manipulate nature so much with the feeding, with the types of deer that we're killing. I mean, if you kill a bunch of two-year-old deer, you're not going to have a good indicator how healthy your deer herd is because the bucks aren't going to reach their maximum potential, right? So that's why I feel like scoring deer for the health of the herd, I honestly wonder how accurate that is. Now, throw shade, if you will, biologists. Second thing, how do we do it? Well, what we're doing is, for those of you who don't know, may be curious, we're measuring the total inches of antler that this deer grew on top of its head. And we're adding in the inside spread. That's what you're doing. The reason you do it, you want to compare them to, going back to the reason, you want to compare them to the deer you may have killed in the past or what your buddies are killing. Like if you do a buck contest, you want to get the deer that grew the largest rack for that year. So we're measuring. There's certain spots on this rack, and I'll show you here in just a minute, where you take your measurements. I'll show you how to take your measurements. And then the different systems that are used. Lord Jesus, this is about as bad as Coke, Dr. Pepper, and Pepsi. So listen to me. When it comes to a gross score, they're all the same. We all do the same thing for a gross score. We're measuring the total inches of antler with the inside spread, no deductions. Now, when you get down to those systems' official scores, that's when you may have a deduction. Boone and Crockett, Pope and Young, Dallas Safari Club, they do deductions. Buckmasters does not do deductions. What we do in our total, or our score, our official score, we give it credit for the total inches of antler minus the inside spread. So let's say you have a 160-inch deer, got a 20-inch inside spread, a 160 gross. When you take that 20-inch inside spread off, now the official score is 140 inches because that's how many inches of antler that animal grew. So here we go. Gave you those instances. Do with it what you will. Let's go to scoring a deer. Okay, so I swap sides because I'm right-handed and I don't want to bump into the microphone. So what we're going to do right now is we are going to take this deer, great deer. Got this from my buddy Jason Hummel from Monroe, Louisiana. Jason skull mounted this dude, and he was kind enough to let me use this for this demonstration. So what we're going to do, first thing you want to do when you get a rack, whether it's your rack or somebody brings it to you, Look at it. Admire it. There's no other rack on planet Earth that's going to be exactly like the one you're looking at right now. There are characteristics about each deer, whether it be the curvature of a point, whether it be the number of points, whether it be the color. Something is going to be different from this deer than others. Trust me. If it's somebody else's deer, do this. Enjoy it. Be excited. Even if it's a small deer, that it's a kid's deer, man, find something about that rack that is interesting. Like, man, look at the characteristics. Just pump it up, because you got to remember, treat this deer like you're going to talk about somebody's baby. Are you going to tell somebody that their baby is ugly? Or, man, why you got that little baby? No, man. Enjoy it. These people are wanting to help let you be a part of their success story. You're like adding the icing on the cake to their success story. Enjoy it, man. So take a look at it, admire it, and also while you're looking at it, be looking for stuff that's going to cause you trouble. This is something I do a lot. When I score for our local buck contest, I'm taking a look at each rack. I am giving it the once over, and I'm looking for things that will give me trouble. This is a typical 10-point, shouldn't be any problem at all. So the first thing I'm going to do is establish the main beam. You've got to establish the main beam. So what's the main beam? Main beam's where every point grows off. This dude right here is the main beam, okay? Every point comes off of this. Typical points, non-typical, everything is going to come off of this main beam. Once you establish the main beam, the rest of it kind of falls on itself. People ask me all the time, it's like, gee, how do you score these big, ugly non-typicals? I'm like, well, if you can find the main beam, it's really not that big an issue. It may take you a little while, but once you find that main beam, it's not hard. Now, after you find the main beam, you're looking for the lowest pedicle, and I'm going to use this side because it's better. You're looking for the lowest pedicle on the base. So you're going to come down here to the lowest pedicle. And I don't know if you can see that too well, but it comes down, and you want to grab a hold to it with your cable. Don't use no string, man. Don't try to get out here with no shoestring or nothing other, no junk like that. You want to put that cable in there at the very base. You want to hook it in there, and then you want to come at a 45-degree angle to the back, up to the back. You don't want to come across like this real quick. You want to come up at a 45-degree angle, come to the back of the rack, and then follow it up, all the way up, okay? Now, I'm going to tell you, some people do a dog and pony show. They'll put tape on the rack. They'll do this. They'll do that. Man, you ain't got to do all that crap. A lot of that's just like I said, for a dog and pony show. They just trying to make it look good. Some people are like, well, I don't want my marks on the rack. Well, wipe it off. It ain't hard. So when you follow it all the way across, you want to stay in the center of the beam. Stay right in the center of the beam. You're going to get to that end. This is why you need a clip. Go and buy you. If you're going to score deer, go buy you a scoring kit. You're going to come to that end just like this. You see where that cable is? And you're going to take that little alligator clip and you're going to clip that dude on there just like that. All right? So, you know what I like to do? I do my main beam. Sometimes I'll do them twice. Why you do them twice? Well, to make sure I got it right the first time. The main beam is the longest beam that you will score, and it is so easy to mess up. So easy to get a little longer, a little shorter. I measure it until I get the same measurement twice because I want to make sure that it's just that accurate. So again, I'll hook it in the base. I'll come up. Sometimes you can find those blood vessels, those grooves in antlers. That's blood vessels. So find that and come up all the way up through the backside, all the way to the front, right in the middle. You're staying right in the middle of the beam the whole way, right in the middle. Bam. Same spot. Can you see it? I don't know if you can see the same spot, okay? That's a good measurement. I'm happy with that measurement. Once I get that measurement, I'm going to take my tape measure. You can take any type of tape measure you want to. You want to do them the right way? Get you a Mason's rule. They're expensive, but they're worth it, man. And I'll show you in a minute when we get down to the inside spread why they're worth it. Once you do that, stretch that dude out, and you're measuring from the end of this to the end of that. And this one right here is right at 22 0.08 inches. And you're like, 0.8? Yeah, baby, 0.8. We go 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, 6/8, 7/8. And the main reason, the only reason, It's as easy to add up. So when somebody says, oh, he was 146 3/4, they wrong. Look, they don't know what they're talking about. That's 6/8, okay? When somebody says it in 6/8, they actually know what they're talking about. That's how you get a main beam. Let's move on to tines. So let's do the tine length. So how are we going to do tine length? Man, it's not hard. You have to understand with tine length, you want to have something. That's a straight edge. I got this at the Hobby Lobby, 2012. Okay, flexible tape measure or ruler, whatever you want to call it. Not tape measure, or just old flexible ruler. This right here is handy as a pocket on a shirt. You know what else I've used? I've used cardboard. I've even used my paycheck. I mean, not my paycheck, my checkbook. When I was in a bind, all I want is a straight edge. That's all you're looking for. And I'm going to show you how you're going to make it to where you want to take, just like you took a hacksaw, and cut that point off, even with the main beam. Okay? Let me rub this off because I measured this deer already. I'm going to show y'all how to get that measurement. It's not, I see a lot of people sometimes, they're either shortchanging the deer or they're giving it way more than it needs. And I tell everybody when they bring me a deer, look, don't bring me a deer if you don't want to know what it scores. Don't bring it to me. I'm not going to give this animal no more than it deserves, and I'm not going to shortchange him either. I'm going to give him exactly what God gave him. What you're wanting to do with this is you're taking this straight edge and you want to go in the gullet. The gullet is here, right here. You want to lay it right there in the lowest spot of this little swag. So you're gonna take your little ruler or your straight edge and you're gonna lay it in there just like this. Okay, you're gonna lay it in there just like that. And when it gets in there, you want to get it good and snug to the bottom. Get it in there. Let me see if I can hold this dude up so I can see you. There we go. Get it in there good. And then come across and make your draw. And then you got your mark. That's your mark that you're going to measure to. Okay? If you look, you could take a hacksaw and cut smooth off with that right there and it'd be perfect. That's the goal. Don't bring it down here to the middle of the... No, we ain't going to measure down here. And don't cut him off up here. That's shortchanging. Once you do that, get you another tape measure. With certified scorers going to have at least, I would think, 2 or 3 different styles of tapes because there's 2 or 3 different styles of scenarios. You're going to measure down. You're going to come down and see this one right here. You want to stay within the middle of the tine. You're going to come down. That's 8 1/8. I don't know if you can see that. 8 1/8. All right. It has to be 1 inch to be a point. That's 8 1/8. If it's like if you got a little point down here, like if you got a brow tine and you want to, I think it may be close. It's a little bump. We can hang a ring on it. No, baby, we ain't hanging rings on it. This ain't 1950. It's got to be 1 inch. It can't be 7/8 of an inch. It can't be within 1/32 of an inch. It's got to be 1 inch, or it's not a point. That's just fact of the matter. Let's talk about something else. This is something I don't think a lot of people realize. How you measure a point. I know when we come out here, we always measure the tines like this because you're following the curvature of the point. Look at these brow tines. Let's see if I can bring it in here and you can see it. You see these brow tines? They look pretty straight, right? But when you get like this, what are they doing? They're leaning to the back. So you'll see a lot of people, sometimes they'll take a brow tine measurement on the front, but the curvature of the brow tine's on the back. You want to pull that dude on down, make your mark on the backside. Take your little straight edge. Come across just like we did earlier. Make your mark on the backside just like it's coming off that main beam. Make your mark there. You want to follow the curvature of that tine, okay? Don't be cutting him off because that could be the difference in 1/8 of an inch. And that could be the difference between a 149-inch deer and a 148-inch deer or a 149 and a 150, okay? So you want to make sure you're following. Again, don't shortchange the animal. Give him everything you can by the book, okay? So that's how you do tine. It's not hard to do tines, but it's probably one of the most common mistakes I see. When I score behind somebody, that's something that I see a lot is the tines aren't measured in the right spot. Let's go to circumference measurements. Okay. All right, let's do Circumference measurements, one of the most debated topics I see on social media. How many circumference measurements does each deer get? Every deer gets 4 circumference measurements. Don't matter if it's a 6 point, 8 point, 10 point, 14 point, whatever. 4 circumference measurements. So the reason and the where we take the circumference measurements is you want to see how thick around. You know, you'll hear people say sometimes, oh, he's got 8-inch bases. Well, he may have 8-inch bases at the biggest, but I'm going to show you where he would score them at, because this is one of the things when I first became a deer scorer, I had trouble wrapping my head around was, why do you take a circumference measurement where you take it? So the first place you take them is between the base and the brow tine. All right. You're going to go right here. You're looking for the smallest part. The smallest part. That's what I couldn't wrap my head around. Between here, the smallest part. I'm like, okay, you would think you'd want the biggest, but you don't. You want to take the smallest spot between here and here, between the point and this, the first and second point right here, between the second and third right here in this gullet, and the third and the fourth right here, or the third and the main beam. So even if you got a 6 point, you take it, you give them 4 circumference measurements. It's hard. You have to look it up. I mean, I could tell you all day, but you go between, like, from here, this is where you start, and then you go here, and then you do the distance. Just look it up, okay? Every deer gets 4 circumference measurements. So what you want to do, let's see if I can show you. Let me see what would be the best way. Let's do it like this. See if this is, no, let's do it like this. Let's do it like this. All right. So I'm going to measure, like I'm going to measure the 4th point, the 4th circumference measurement. I mean, I'm going to come through here. I'm going to wrap my tape. You can see I done scored a few of them. That's what, when you score a lot of deer, that's what that circumference tape looks like. You come through, you wrap it around, and you're looking for the small. You may have to go a few different spots to find the smallest part. And this one right here, it's going to be 3 2/8. You know, I could come on up here, and it's still going to be 3 2, and then I can come up a little closer. It's going to be a little over 2. But the smallest spot is 3 2/8, and that's what you write down. And you explain to that person that owns that rack why you're doing what you do. That's how you do it. You look for the smallest spot between in the points, man, in the circumference measurements areas. I've had a lot of people look at me crazy because they come to these buck contests, and I mean, they got some hammers, man, and they'll have bases as big as a Coke can. But when I get down there and I start looking for that smallest spot, and I hit one that, it may be 6. And then the closer you get to that brow tine, the narrower it gets. And then it gets on down to 4 or maybe 5 and something. 4 is not realistic on a 6-inch base, but you get down, I've seen them in the 5s from a 6 to a 5 and something. And, that fella's about ready to throw hands, but you have to sit down and you have to explain that that's how we do it, man. That's just how you do it. I'm not going to give this deer no more than it deserves. So we've done main beams. We've done points. We've done circumference measurements. Now I'm going to show you how to get that inside spread. All right, so let's do the inside spread. I am 45 years old, and when I was a kid, we didn't score no deer. I mean, this is how you knew you had a big deer back in the day. First thing somebody'd ask you, let's say it's 1991. You kill a good deer. The first question your buddy's going to ask you is, how wide was it? That's just how we always, how wide, maybe even how high they was. That's how we scored deer. That's how we could tell, man, that deer had an 18-inch inside spread. That was a hammer back in the day, and they still are. But that's how you gauged the deer. So now we're scoring the deer total inches. That's a big deal. And I'm going to be honest with you, I think it's the most overrated part of deer hunting, but that's just my opinion. When it comes down to the inside spread, a Mason's rule is absolutely, hands down, the best thing you can get because it's got this little slide out spot, all right? And when you got that little slide out spot, it makes it so easy to find that inside spread. You ain't stretching tapes across, this, that, and other. You're fitting this tape measure in between this rack, just like that. You see how that is? Now watch this. You see that little spot coming out? And now I'm looking for the widest point in these racks. Now I will slide it back and forth across this rack. I'm not going to go cattywampus. You go exactly straight across to find the inside spread. And this deer right here is 16 4/8 inches inside spread. Great inside spread for a deer. The only thing hurt this deer was his tines. They were a little short. But the characteristic, this is one of the most beautiful little 10 points that I've seen in a while. I mean, it's just so symmetrical, so pretty, got a lot of characteristics to it, got a great inside spread. And see, folks, what I just did right there, that's how you treat the person that brings that deer to you. You talk about everything that it's got. I can't tell you enough. Pump this deer up to the person you're scoring it for, because this is their baby, man. Enjoy this. Enjoy it with them. So that's how you find the inside spread. Don't cattywampus it. Go directly across the main beams. Don't go over here to if it's got a third main beam. No, we ain't going to do it. We're going to do it. All right, say third. If you got a double main beam. No. Don't go off that double. You go off that main beam, that typical main beam, right there in the middle. That's where you do it. So we've put measurements on this deer all the way around. Now let's go and see what it scored. All right, so we've done scoring. One thing I did forget to tell you guys is how to differentiate the sides of the rack of the deer. Some people, kind of get a little confused. Always remember, when you're looking at the deer, turn that deer away from you. This is your right hand. This is his right side. This is your left hand. This is the deer's left side. So when you write it down, that's how you write it on your sheet. Now, you can go on the internet. You can download Buckmasters score sheets. They're not hard. They're good to go by. Or you can just take you a regular sheet of paper and write down the measurements on a sheet of paper. I've already written these down. I don't know if can y'all see this? It may be too white. One thing that I write down is I will write down the total points for each side. Why am I writing down the total points on each side? So that when I go back, I make sure the measurements matches the points that I wrote down. I've got 5 tine measurements, a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, and a main beam. That's 5, okay? Make sure you write down how many points per side it is. Next thing you want to do, write down your main beam. Then write down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever it is. Boy, if you got a 14 point, congratulations. I've never killed a 14 point. I've always wanted to kill something bigger than a 10, and I haven't. So, circumference measurements, 1, 2, 3, 4, because every deer gets 4 circumference measurements. Don't forget that. That's just basically how you set it up, man. And then you start writing down your measurements. When I do, now look. And I've seen buck contests make this mistake before. All right. It's easy to make a mathematical error. One of the first deer I ever scored, one of the first trophy deer I ever scored for Buckmasters was I hate to say it like it was a shit show. It was an embarrassment. I made a mathematical error. Why did I make a mathematical error? Because I didn't check my math twice. What's the old adage? Measure twice, cut once. And I didn't measure twice. I'm telling you, folks, when you add up your points, when you get down to 61 4/8, write that 61.5 at the top, do it again. And do it as many times as it takes until you get the same numbers twice or 3 times. Because I'm telling you, it's easy to make a mathematical error when you're doing this kind of stuff. Because you want to hurry up. You want to see what it is. You're going. And then you mess up. I've seen it. I've done it. I've been a part of it. So the total deer, this deer right here, main beams, 22 0/8 on one side, 21 4/8 on the other. This is a great, I don't know where it came from, but if it come from North Louisiana, where I'm from, that is a great indication of the deer that we have around here. You've got, this is probably a little above average, about an average, a little above average for the deer around here, a mature buck. Characteristics on this one, solid circumference measurements on the left-hand side. Every single one of them were over 3 inches within just a few fractions of an inch of each other. Perfect on this side as far as that goes. This side right here, the longest point was 8 0/8 on the right-hand side. And that's going to be this 3 right here. Man, this dude right here was stuck out longer than any other point on this deer. Their circumference measurement, this is going to be the deer's strongest side. Every deer will have a stronger side. So don't think when you see something, oh man, sometimes they just have a stronger side. This side, the right side was 61 and 4/8, left side was 57 and 6/8 for a total rack score. Now, if this was a Buckmasters certified score of 119 and 2/8, that is the total inches of antler. I hit my mic, sorry. The total inches of antler, 119 and 2/8. Now, when I add in that 16 and 4/8 inside spread, the gross score for this animal, 135 and 6/8. A great deer, very respectable, good skull mount by Jason Hummel out of Monroe, Louisiana. Beautiful. I'm telling you, folks, when you get the opportunity to score somebody's deer, take pride in it. They want you to celebrate with them. And the way I look at it is, when you write a story, you start with a beginning, you build to the climax, and then you tie it up in one nice little package at the end. That's what your business is when you're scoring a deer. You're tying up this person's score at the very end. This is what they love. This is why they do it. This is what everybody wants. You want to kill the biggest deer, but I cannot say this enough, and Buckmasters may get mad at me for saying this. It is the least important part of hunting. I think we emphasize deer scoring too much. I can't tell you how many times I hear people say, I wonder why they killed that little old thing. Or they'll come up and they'll say, well, it ain't bad, but it ain't the one I was after. And they got a 160-inch deer. And I just want to grab them and say, do you understand how special this is? Because, number one, you took a life, man. You took something off planet Earth. Enjoy it. Celebrate it. Respect it. Okay, that's why people, the antis, they look at us and they're like, you just out there slaying stuff. And don't get me wrong. I mean, there's probably some people out there that do that. But the true sportsmen enjoy everything that they hunt and everything they get to bring home and enjoy with their friends and family. People ask me all the time, one of the ladies that I know very, very well, I hold a lot of respect towards. She's not a hunter. She doesn't like taxidermy. She doesn't like anything. She saw my deer. And she said, I don't understand why people want to put that stuff in their house. And I told her this. I said, ma'am, I can honestly say, I hope I'm in my hospice bed in this house. And I look up and I can see that deer. And I'm going to be able to tell you everything about that hunt. Because that's what taxidermy is for the outdoors person. It's a reminder of the time when the fate of that deer matched the fate of that hunter. And they came together. I got one on the wall right now. I had no business hunting this deer. Had no business killing it. I walked on some family property that we hadn't hunted in years just to walk. I just needed to clear my mind. But I'm one of them that ain't gonna go in the woods without a weapon. And I carried my rifle with me, got in the deer stand, and about an hour later, that 143-inch 10-point walked out. I had no business shooting that deer. I still feel kind of guilty because I don't feel like I hunted him hard enough. I don't feel like I did a lot of stuff the right way. But you know what? The main thing, guys, is this. I was out there enjoying God's creation. Out there having a good time in the woods. That's what it's about. So don't get hung up on these scores, man. Don't do it. My name is Greg Hicks. This is my podcast. I hope you guys like it. Like and subscribe. Share it with your friends. And if there's some stuff in here you didn't like, I apologize. I hope I didn't step on nobody's toes. But hey, that's just how I am, man. We real. That's what this channel is about. Real outdoors. Real. I ain't on nobody's pro staff. I ain't on doing that. I am my pro staff, okay? So I'm going to say it how it is. I'm going to tell it what I think. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But honestly, when it comes down to scoring deer, it's something I'm passionate about, and it's some of my beliefs. So hope you enjoyed it and get after it this season. Hope you have a good one.